2v2 basketball game released by Midway in the year 2000 in North America. You control one player and the other player on your team is controlled by a bot, but you can give him some commands. If you have the ball, you can pass or shoot. Based on speed and distance, your player will dunk the ball when shooting. Without the ball, you can tackle and do a jump block. There's 3 modes. Season, which lets you play a full season against other teams, but you have to win every game, saved by a password system. Exhibition, which lets you play a single match against the CPU on different courts. And playoffs that are a tournament. For the Game Boy Color, the graphics are very good. The sprites look good, it's very colorful, and the UI is clean. Putting the remaining time of the court in the background was a good idea to keep the screen clear. I like that the logo of the home team is on the court. The music, on the other hand, is getting old very quickly. There's more or less just one track that plays all the time. I give the presentation 3.5 out of 5 points. The gameplay is lacking depth. There's just not much to do. The game modes are basically all the same and not many possibilities in the match. Mostly you sprint, you can do that by holding the start button, to the other side and just dunk the ball in. The different courts like Street and the Jungle are a nice addition, but it's just a reskin. I give the gameplay 2 out of 5 points. Let's get to the important question. Would I recommend playing the game? No. Overall I was bored quickly, but it looks beautiful, it has a lot of different dunking animation which is nice, and if you're a basketball fan you might have some fun with it. I give the game overall 3 out of 5 points. Croc 2 is a Zelda-like puzzle adventure game with some jump and run elements, made by Argonaut Software and published by Fox Interactive. The game was released in Europe and North America in 2001 and is a sequel to Croc 1. In the game you can play as a crocodile that can jump and do a spin attack. The story of the game is that Croc is looking for his mother. The story is not relevant and the levels in the game have not much to do with the overall story. In every level you solve some problem that the people of the hub world have. There are 4 hub worlds with different settings, and in every hub world there are 3 small levels that you can do in any order and a boss fight. In the levels you need to collect all the gems to see the real ending. I didn't do that. For saving the game, it is using a password system. The presentation is fine, the sprites are big and have nice colors. The 4 different worlds all have a distinctive look. Sadly, the small levels inside of one world all looks mostly the same. There's also not much variety when it comes to sprite of NPCs. Different hub worlds all have their own color scheme, but that's about it. Not much more to say about the graphic. It is okay, and the sound is also okay. Every world has a theme, and during my playthrough I was not so annoyed by the music that I would turn it off. The gameplay on the other hand is having a lot of problems. While the controls are fine, the puzzles are uncreative and repetitive. They are basically 4 puzzles: pushing blocks, pushing buttons in the same order as a light, mathematical equations, and mazes with the solution as a text block in the beginning. Most of the time I was just running around with no orientation on the level and did the puzzles without thinking about what solving the riddle would actually bring. There are just 2 types of enemies, one that is shooting at you and one that is charging at you. The 2 types look a little bit different in each world, but that's it. The 4 bosses are also nothing special, and the last boss is even recycling the mechanic of the first. Additionally, there can be very tight jumps in the levels that are difficult to see. Let's get to the important question. Would I recommend playing the game? No. I saw an IGN review of the game with a score of 8 and I really don't agree. It has boring levels, boring puzzles, and the only challenge in the level is to find the right way. This is a point-and-click collection and a remake of 2 NES games. Made by ICOM Simulations and published by Mindscape and Kemco. In the USA and Japan the game released in the end of 1999 and in Europe in 2000. In the game you play as Ace Harding, a private detective that, in the first game, lost his memories and trying to find out who he is, who did it and why. The story takes place in Chicago in 1942 and is a typical detective investigator story. The presentation is fine. I like the music and the graphics are good too. Everything is clearly recognizable. Nothing special to say about the graphics, but I think for a point-and-click game on the Game Boy Color the graphics are doing the job quite well. I give the presentation 3 out of 5 points. Gameplay can be a bit tedious. All the time you need to switch between the different commands to open doors and to move through them. A lot of items are containers with more items in them that you have to open and then take the items from the item. That's unnecessarily exhausting. Besides that, the controls work fine and the riddles in the game are possible to solve. Sometimes a little bit easy and sometimes I had no idea what to do without a guide, especially shooting logs with a gun. You can easily die or get arrested depending on where you go or what you do. That can feel a bit cheap sometimes, but in that case you can always go one screen back if you hit continue. The game has a battery save for multiple save games. You can get stuck if you have no money to pay the taxi drivers, so be careful about that. I give the gameplay 3 out of 5 points. Let's get to the important question. Would I recommend playing the game? Just if you like classic point-and-click adventures. I think that kind of game aged not as good as other genres. If you like classic point-and-click games, then these two games might be something for you. Overall, I give the game 3 out of 5 points. This game released on the 2nd of March 2002 exclusively in Japan, published by MTO. There's no translation patch and I don't speak Japanese, but I think I understood what the game is about. It is a virtual dollhouse kind of game. You see the Hello Kitty running around in a house doing different animations. You can interact with Kitty and with various objects in the house. There's 3 different minigames: sorting books, taking care of plants, and catching apples. Then minigames can be played in 3 difficulties and you get points for them, which unlocks new furniture that you can place around the house. The furniture placement is very limited. There are 5 slots in which you can only put certain things. The presentation is fine. The kitty sprite is big and the animations are recognizable. The music is also upbeat and at least in my 30-minute playtime not too annoying. While the sprite looks fine, there's just not much to see in the game. There are only still images of interactions with different characters. There's just a kitty sprite running around the house and that's it. The house itself is also not very big and kind of boring. I give the presentation a 2 out of 5. There is not much in terms of gameplay. There are 3 minigames and besides that, it is watching Kitty run around and doing mostly nothing. I understand that there's a market for that kind of game and the target audience were clearly children, but still, just 3 minigames? That is low. Maybe there are more if you play more, but I doubt it. Let's get to the important question. Would I recommend playing the game? No. I see no reason for anyone to play that game. Even if you speak Japanese and you're a big Hello Kitty fan, I don't think the game is worth your time. There's nothing to do. I agree with the title of the game, Hello Kitty, no happy house. This game was developed by Eurocom and released in Europe and North America in 2001. The game is based on the Disney movie Atlantis. It's a puzzle jump and run game in which you run, jump, swim and climb through 10 levels. At Radius you can change between different characters and all characters have some unique actions they can do. Some can solve riddles, others can explode things or build a helicopter or drone. To fight, every character has a basic attack and a unique weapon that can be found in the levels. The levels follow the basic plot of the movie, but besides that there's no story. The game looks really cool. They went with the sprites for a more realistic look. Sure, a rare style on the Game Boy Color, but it is looking good and I like the sprites. Levels, including the foreground and backgrounds, are really nice too, and the music track is good. Sadly, there are not many different tracks. The enemies can sometimes look from the colors a bit too close to the ground, especially the spiders can be hard to see. The opening level screens look like they got ripped from the movie, and they just look like a pixelated mess. The UI is also very basic. I give the presentation 4 out of 5 points. The controls are fluid and I like that the characters can hold and climb up a ledge. The basic movement feels quite good. If you have to jump on platforms on the other hand, it can be hard to control. The basic style of the game is finding the end of the level and change the characters from time to time to make the way free with the unique actions. That works fine. Often the problem is that the radio to change the character is just on the way to the next puzzle and you can just change the character to one other character, so you do that because you know that's what you have to do without seeing the next puzzle. Sometimes the game is solving itself in a way. I give the gameplay 3 out of 5 points. Let's get to the important question. Would I recommend playing the game? Yes. It's a fun playthrough that doesn't take too long. The presentation of the game is very nice and the puzzles are not always so challenging, but fine. I give the game overall 3.5 out of 5 points.
Outstanding job, Sarge. Please stand by for further orders. HQ out.
Army 2 on the Game Boy Color. This game was developed by Digital Eclipse and released in the US and Europe in 2000. It is a sequel to Army 1. In this action shooting game, you control a green plastic soldier that is fighting against a tan-colored plastic army in different levels. Every level has multiple objectives that you do one after each other. In the game you can collect and use multiple weapons like assault rifles, mortars, grenades and flamethrowers. Additionally, you can go in and control vehicles like tanks and jeeps. I like the presentation of the game. In the beginning I was feeling a bit motion sick by playing the game, especially in the bootcamp tutorial mission. The screen constantly vibrates, which is annoying. After a while I overcame that feeling and since then I could appreciate the graphics. The surroundings look nice and colorful, the soldiers itself are a bit of a pixelated mess, but you quickly get used to it. I give the presentation 3 out of 5 points. The game has a very addictive gameplay. The objectives have the perfect length to keep you engaged and the new areas to discover are fun. The weapons work fine, but have some wonky qualities. For example, can you shoot with the assault rifle as soon as the old projectile exploded? That means that you can shoot very close to an enemy very fast, making it next to the flamethrower the strongest weapon. The game has a great working map, where you can see all the enemies so that you know where you need to go. Even though the most objectives are just killing all enemy soldiers, it is really fun. I give the gameplay 4 out of 5 points. Let's get to the important question. Would I recommend playing the game? Yes. Even though I didn't expect it in the beginning, that game is fun. Play it, you won't regret that short playthrough. I give the game overall 4 out of 5 points. Medarot card Robottle on the Game Boy Color. This game was developed by Tosi and released in Japan in 2000. The game released in 2 versions, Kabuto and Kuwagata. Z versions are similar to the Pokemon games. The main game is the same, but there are some smaller differences in the card you start with. In the game you play the existing Medarot card game. You and the opponent each have 2 Medarots on the field with different parts like heads, arms and legs, and you have to destroy the parts of the other player's Medarot to reduce their life points. In this review you see the Super Game Boy version of the game. The game looks very Pokemon-like, and the overworld between the building doesn't have a world to run through it, but it's just a menu. During the card play, the game stream is overwhelmingly full. There's so many information that all get shown at the same time. The card graphics look a little bit boring. The music is fine. I give the presentation 2 out of 5 points. Reviewing the gameplay is not so easy for me, because I cannot speak Japanese and there's no English translation. I translated most of the dialogue, but it was still hard for me to understand. What I can say about the gameplay is that there's a lot of text. So much text. The gameplay is very slow. I didn't have the feeling that this card game is a good choice for the Game Boy Color. Since I didn't completely understand the game, I give it the benefit of the doubt. I give the gameplay 3 out of 5 points. Let's get to the important question. Would I recommend playing the game? No. If you don't understand Japanese, then don't bother. I give the game overall 2 out of 5 points. Catz on the Game Boy Color. This game was developed by Sapphire and released in North America and Europe in 1999. In this game you take care of a virtual cat. You can feed the cat, pet it and give different toys to your cat. When you adopt the cat you can choose the color of the fur. The cat looks fine, a bit stupid but in a good way. The animations are also fine. The background images are exactly that, images. You cannot interact with anything in the background and some of the backgrounds don't even try to emulate a room. There's also no background music during playing. I give the presentation 1.5 out of 5 points. There is no gameplay. You can give some items to the cat, but always just one item at a time, and you can also just see one cat on their screen. There's nothing to do, and it is not interesting enough to watch to justify that. I give the gameplay 0.5 out of 5 points. Let's get to the important question. Would I recommend playing the game? No. With watching that review you had the same experience as playing it. I give the game overall 1 out of 5 points. Beatmania GB2 GotchaMix on the Game Boy Color. This game was developed by Konami and released in 1999 exclusively in Japan. It is a rhythm game that reminded me a lot, well completely, of Guitar Hero. You hear a song, the notes come from up and you press the buttons in the right moment to play the song. I didn't know that this game principle is that old, but it makes sense. In this review you see the Super Game Boy version that added extra colors and better music. The game looks really good and the sounds are great. I like the 8-bit versions of songs. Still, the screen is clear and it is easily recognizable what to do. The screen shows on the right a few pictures, maybe from the original music videos. I'm not sure since I don't know any of the songs. I think you could have used more of the screen for the falling notes and less for the pictures, but it still looks quite good. I give the presentation 4 out of 5 points. The game works like you would expect it to. You press the button at the right moment and that's it. The buttons always felt responsive and there are even multiple different import modes that change the order of the buttons. The only thing missing is the rumble feature when you do something wrong, but the Game Boy Color doesn't have this feature. I give the gameplay 4 out of 5 points. Let's get to the important question. Would I recommend playing the game? Yes, if you like a Guitar Hero-like rhythm game with Japanese rock and anime songs, then this is the game for you. It is very well made and fun. I give the game overall 4 out of 5 points.
Missile Command on the Game Boy Color. This game was developed by the Code Monkeys and released in Europe and North America in 1999. It is a part of the 1980 arcade game Missile Command. In the game you defend cities from missiles by shooting your own missile. For that you have 2 missile silos that can shoot a certain amount of rockets. In every level you defend a specific city, and if there are still buildings after 2 levels you get a little animation and the next background. The graphics of the game are not good. It's a bit hard to judge since it is part of an old Atari arcade game and it is looking like an old Atari arcade game. So in a way they did the presentation correct. But this game released 19 years later and for that it is not good enough. The backgrounds are lazy and the sprites for the houses don't even change for the different city. Everything looks bad and there's no background music and nothing. I give the presentation 1 out of 5 points. The gameplay is fine. You shoot a missile and the explosion of your missile stays on the screen quite long and destroys every enemy missile they touch. It is an okay gameplay, but also not enough for a console that had Zelda Oracle of Ages and Seasons. I know it is the port of an old game, and I guess that's the experience that the players at bought Missile Command wanted, but for me that is not great gameplay. There are also annoying things, like after all the missiles are gone I need to wait until the animation of all the missiles is finally over so that I can continue playing. All the levels are basically the same, a lot of problems. I give the gameplay 2 out of 5 points. Let's get to the important question. Would I recommend playing the game? No. I guess it is a good port of a 1980 arcade game, but that doesn't make it worth playing. I give the game 1.5 out of 5 points.
Dragon Tales, Dragon Adventures on the Game Boy Color. When I heard the title I was expecting an epic RPG, but then I saw the box art and knew I will get a different kind of game. Feeling like a fever dream. This game was developed by Handheld Games and released 2001 exclusively in North America. It is based on the educational children's series Dragon Tales. The game makes more sense now. In the game you can play different levels that all work similar. It is a 2D platformer. You go through the levels and collect a certain amount of a specific item that the fairies tell you. There are no enemies and you can only walk, jump and crawl. And slide. There are a lot of slides. The game looks fine. The backgrounds and sprites are very colorful and have a lot of different animations for the activities you can do. The music on the other hand got some problems. There is background music, which is already a plus, but the music sometimes sounds extremely weird whenever special effects happen at the same time. The background images get repeated a bit too often. There seems to be a lot of suns in Dragonland. I give the presentation 3 out of 5 points. I think the gameplay is very boring, but I'm also not the target audience for the game. The game clearly has children as the target audience, and I think for new young players the concept works. The fairies tell you what to do, everything works fine and the objectives get repeated a lot. So, no confusion there. I give the gameplay 3 out of 5 points. Let's get to the important question. Would I recommend playing the game? No. Not if you're over 8, and I assume you are, so no. I give the game overall 3 out of 5 points. Real Pro Yakuu, Central or Pacific, League Hen on the Game Boy Color. These 2 games were developed by Natsume and are the same game just with different playable teams. They released exclusively in Japan in 1999. In this game you're the manager of a baseball team and you try to win the league. You can let the game automatically calculate the results of the games or play them yourself. If you want to do that, bring a lot of time because baseball takes forever. If you play the game yourself you can choose how to throw the ball or how to hit the ball with cards. It is not a reaction-based game, but more like a prediction-based game. The game looks cute, but also very easy. The presentation is nothing special, but it has some good baseball music, and when you do a home run there's a little animation, so that's something. Sadly, that's also the only thing. For such management games you don't need the best graphics, but a bit more would have been possible. I give the presentation 2 out of 5 points. Rating the gameplay was a bit hard for me out of 2 reasons. First, I don't understand Japanese, and second, I don't understand baseball. I know the basics of baseball, but not enough to make any tactical decisions, so I cannot really judge about how complex the game is or isn't. The manual baseball game was not my favorite, but that's all I can say about that. I didn't see any option to train the players or buy new ones. I give the gameplay 3 out of 5 points. Let's get to the important question. Would I recommend playing the game? No. Maybe if you're a great Japanese League baseball fan who can also read Japanese, but besides that I wouldn't recommend it. I give the game 2.5 out of 5 points. Shiren the Wanderer GB2, Magic Castle of the Desert on the Game Boy Color. In Japan known as Fushigi no Dungeon, Fuurai no Shiren GB2, Sabaku no Majou. The game is a roguelike turn-based dungeon crawler. You go through a dungeon from one level to the other, and on the way you collect items, weapons and level up. If you die in the dungeon, you lose all equipment and levels, but keep some money to buy start equipment for the next dungeon run and so on. The enemies in the dungeon all act after you, so whenever you move, attack or use an item that counts as a turn, and then the enemies are doing their turn, which is also moving or attacking you. The game is looking great. There's a very good looking intro cutscenes. I like how the enemies look. The weapons have different little sprites in your hand. The music is great. I have nothing bad to say about the presentation. I would say that is a perfect presentation on the Game Boy Color for that kind of game. I give the presentation 5 out of 5 points. The game is in Japanese and sadly there's no translation patch. There is a community, but they're busy doing translation patches for other Shiren the Wanderer games and systems. That's a shame because the game is very text heavy and there's quite a lot of dialogue. That also makes it hard for me to judge how complex the system can get. What I saw was extremely well made. The game is even using an autosave feature, and that as a Game Boy Color game, while some Game Boy Advance games that come out years later still use a password system. I give the gameplay 4 out of 5 points. Let's get to the important question. Would I recommend playing the game? Only if you speak Japanese, and that's such a shame. Because this game got the highest rating yet and is incredibly well made, but sadly only released in Japan with no translation patch and being so text heavy. I still give the game overall 4.5 out of 5 points. Quest Fantasy Challenge, also known in Europe as Holy Magic Century on the Game Boy Color. This game was developed by Imagineer and released in Europe and North America in 1999. While I was expecting with this title an RPG, it is more like an arcade game. In every level you collect different treasures and gems. Whenever you collect everything or kill all the enemies, you go to the next level, with the goal of getting the highest score possible. The levels have some starting ways, but are mostly covered with some kind of dirt. You can go through that dirt and create new ways. The enemies will use that ways that you have created and try to hunt you down. In a physics-breaking way, the treasure chests, unlike everything else, can fall down if there is a way under them, and if they fall far enough they open, revealing special items that give points and weapon upgrades. The game has a very basic look to it and exactly one background music track. At least the enemies have different sprites. I would call the presentation functional. I give the presentation 1 out of 5 points. The gameplay loop is very easy. You just run around and collect the things, trying to create little mazes to not getting hunted down by the enemies too fast. Sometimes you can lock the way with a chest or drop the chest on the enemies to destroy them. I give the gameplay 2 out of 5 points. Let's get to the important question. Would I recommend playing the game? Weirdly, yes. The game doesn't look like much and also the gameplay is nothing too special, but for like 20 minutes it's a fun game. More like a minigame than a full title, but not a bad one. I give the game overall 2 out of 5 points. Honkaku Taisen Shougi Ayumu on the Game Boy Color. This game was developed by Culture Brain and released exclusively in Japan in 2000. The game is, like the name already told us, a game about Shougi. Shougi is a board game and also known as Japanese chess. My problem for this review? I don't know how to play Shougi, so yeah, I still review it. The presentation of the game is simple. There's just one background track and the game board is looking simple too. There's nothing special, and if you do illegal moves there's no indication why it was illegal. Maybe not important for experienced players, but for me that would have been useful. I give the presentation 2 out of 5 points. The game has 2 modes. First a match against the computer, and second are 100 challenges with different starting situations. There's no story or tutorial mode. The game is better safe and multiple save slots. You can also redo your last turn. I give the gameplay 3 out of 5 points. Let's get to the important question. Would I recommend playing the game? Just for Shougi fans and people that know how to play it. There's no tutorial or anything like that, so if you don't know how to play, you won't learn it here. I give the game overall 2.5 out of 5 points. Sylvanian Melody, Mori no Nakama to Odori Mashi on the Game Boy Color. This game was developed by Natsume and released 2000 exclusively in Japan. In this review sees a Super Game Boy version with better music. The game is based on the Sylvanian Family series, which seems to be a series of plushed animals and toys. This game is a rhythm game. There's one minigame, and that is pushing 3 buttons in the right moment. The game looks very cute. I like the bright colors and the characters all have cute look to them. And the dialogues are little animations and everything looks very polished. While it's always the same minigame, they have different characters and objects as the nodes. The presentation is fine. I give the presentation 4 out of 5 points. The gameplay on the other hand is boring. That there's just one kind of rhythm minigame is disappointing. Like this, it's just a worse version of Beatmania GB2. The buttons often felt unresponsive and it was hard to know the exact timing to press. I give the gameplay 1 out of 5 points. Let's get to the important question. Would I recommend playing the game? No. Play Beatmania GB2 if you're looking for a rhythm game on the Game Boy Color. I give the game overall 2.5 out of 5 points. Hype, the time quest on the Game Boy Color. This game was developed by Planet Interactive and released 2000 exclusively in Europe. It is a port of the computer game with the same title. You're the knight Hype that gets sent back in time and has to fight through 4 different eras to get back to his time and save everyone from the evil Dark Knight. In the game you play a Playmobil man in a Playmobil world. I think in the computer version the story makes sense. Here not really. Besides a bad looking start and end cutscene, there's not much story. The 4 different times also just have different hub worlds that look nearly identical besides a different color scheme. In every era you play 3 levels in any order you want. You have a dragon riding level and then a boss fight. After that you go to the next era and so on. The game looks really good. I like the colors and the music is great too. There's always background music and the levels look really nice. The player and NPC sprites look a bit weird. They tried to recreate the look of a Playmobil figure, but kind of failed. The start and end of game cutscenes are hideous. They just tried to take random pictures from the computer version, but because of the lower resolution it looks like garbage. Still, the game in total is beautiful and it gives the presentation 4 out of 5 points. The gameplay is a typical jump and run. The problem is that the levels, special abilities and everything gameplay-wise is extremely standard. There's nothing that stands out. The jump is floaty and all special abilities, arrows and different spells, do the same. They one-shot enemies. So why are there 3 different spells? No idea. The bosses also just have 1 or 2 attacks that they repeat until they die. The only thing that changes is that they do the same attack a bit faster whenever their HP is low. That gives the gameplay 3 out of 5 points. Let's get to the important question. Would I recommend playing the game? Yes. It is a not very creative but solid jump and run game that looks nice and is a fine 90-minute playthrough. I give the game overall 3.5 out of 5 points. Rainbow Islands on the Game Boy Color. This is a port of a 1987 arcade game. The game released exclusively in Europe in 2001 and was developed by Taito. In the game you play a little boy that can shoot rainbows, climb on top of them and with that get higher and higher in the level. From the floor is coming water, so you need to hurry to get to the top. On the way are enemies that you can defeat with your rainbows. There are 2 modes, story mode, with not much story, and a challenge mode. The game looks not very good. It looks close to the original arcade game, but that didn't look so good either, so I give it points for being close to the original, but not many. There's background music, but not many different tracks, and the sound effects get annoying quickly too. I give the presentation 2 out of 5 points. The gameplay is very boring. You make rainbows, you climb on top of them, you jump higher. Sometimes you make multiple rainbows in a row, but that's it. I don't know. Most of the arcade ports that released for the Game Boy Color didn't impress me. I give the gameplay 2 out of 5 points. Let's get to the important question. Would I recommend playing the game? No. It is not very fun. I give the game overall 2 out of 5 points. Today we review Pokemon Silver, Gold and Crystal on the Game Boy Color. These games were developed by Game Freak and released between 1999 and 2001 everywhere. The 3 different versions are mostly the same but have variations in the Pokemon you can find and catch in the game. In this review you see Pokemon Crystal. I think everyone that finds this channel knows Pokemon. You run around, catch Pokemon, train them, defeat the gym leaders and the top 4. Gold, Silver and Crystal are the second generation of Pokemon games. While the main part of the game stayed the same, a lot of new things got included. Colors, new Pokemon, a day-night cycle, Pokemon eggs, and most importantly for me, a better organization system for the items. That is a game changer compared to the first Pokemon generation. The game looks very good. The Pokemon sprites look great and have little animations at the start of a fight. The overworld looks really nice too. It is colorful and everything is easy recognizable. While the graphics of the game are solid, the music is really outstanding. There are a lot of good tracks that are very memorable. I give the presentation 4.5 out of 5 points. The game is addicting and has a perfect grind and reward ratio. That the franchise went to the heights it is today is mainly because the first generation's games were incredible. I give the gameplay 5 out of 5 points. Let's get to the important question. Would I recommend playing the game? Yes, the game still holds up. For me personally, it holds up way better than the first generation because of comfort functions like the better item organization and because I like the colorful world. There are tons of randomizers and challenges you can play, so the replayability is as high as it can be. I give the game overall 5 out of 5 points. Today we review Moorhuhn 3, Gibt Huhn, also known as Moorhuhn 3 The Chicken Chase on the Game Boy Color. Before I tell anything about the game, I will explain a bit about the Moorhuhn franchise. The first Moorhuhn game was made in 1998 as an advertisement game and you could play it in bars on laptops and was not meant to be released as a game. Still, a lot of people shared it through emails and websites. In Germany the game was a giant phenomenon and one of the most viral advertisement campaigns of all times. The game got hyped and everyone played it. Especially in German offices, the game got played during working time and lost the country over 100 billion mark. Software was written to block the game from office computers and people claimed that shooting chicken was too violent. Later the hype slowed down and the game disappeared, but still everyone in Germany knows Moorhuhn. Back to the game. This game was developed by Similis and released 2002 exclusively in Europe. It is a port of the Moorhuhn 3 PC game and a gallery shooter. Additionally, there are some mini-games, like a Tetris clone. The game looks bad on the Game Boy Color. They really just ported the PC version in a bad resolution. The game is nearly not recognizable and that is, especially for such a shooter game, a big problem. The music is okay and the main theme track is full of energy. I give the presentation 2 out of 5 points. I don't think gallery shooters that normally use a mouse are the best fit for handhelds, and at least in this case I am correct. While the cursor is good controllable, it still doesn't feel so good to play. The minigames are extremely pointless and the main game just has one level, which is also the case in the original PC version by the way, and that's just lazy. I give the gameplay 1.5 out of 5 points. Let's get to the important question. Would I recommend playing the game? No. It is a lazy cash grab that tried to make money out of the franchise while there was still a hype. I give the game overall 2 out of 5 points. Today we review Ojarumaru, Tsukiyo ga Iki no Takara Mono on the Game Boy Color. This game was developed by Success and released 2000 exclusively in Japan. It is a game based on the manga Ojarumaru, and it's a Mario Kart-like board game, but with a strong focus on cutscenes with various funny characters. I didn't know the manga series before, but it seems the anime series is the third longest running anime series to date and has 2082 episodes. For reference, at the time of recording, One Piece has a bit over 1100 episodes, so just around half as many as Ojarumaru. The game looks very gag manga-like. The presentation is really nice. The focus is around the dialogues and the wacky characters, and they really put the effort into their cutscenes with them. The music is fine too. I think it is a very cool and unique style. I give the presentation 4 out of 5 points. Gameplay-wise, the game is a bit lacking. It is really more like reading the manga or watching an episode. There is not much gameplay. You move around the board game part of the game, talk to the people, and from time to time you play very basic minigames. There are some other people on the board running around just like you do, but I didn't see any interaction. I give the gameplay 1 out of 5 points. Let's get to the important question. Would I recommend playing the game? No. I think this game is really just something for big fans of Ojarumaru, and even then I cannot imagine someone playing that game for long. It is cool and unique, but I think it is enough knowing that it exists. I give the game overall 3 out of 5 points. Today we review True Balls on the Game Boy Color. This game was developed by Paragon 5 and released 2001 exclusively in North America. It is a Tetris-like puzzler game in which you need to rotate balls to get a minimum of 4 balls of the same color together to make them disappear. The game is saved by a password system. The presentation of the game is very bad. The game itself just uses half the screen and is extremely simple. The other half of the screen is used for a pixelated mess representing famous sightseeing objects. The main menu looks like someone drew it in paint, and the cover of the game looks like a funny picture of someone's physics teacher. The biggest joke, maybe tied with the title screen, is the "well done" or "try again" text that float one time over the screen at the end of a level. The only positive part about the presentation is that there is background music, which often repeats itself and is not very inspiring, but at least there is some. I give the presentation 1 out of 5 points. The gameplay is okay. The basic idea of the puzzler with the rotating mechanic is not so innovative or interesting, but fine. The levels are mainly more puzzles than a Tetris, for example. You really have to look at the layout first and think a moment, otherwise you're left with 2 balls of one color that cannot be destroyed anymore. A weird decision for such a thinking puzzle game is a very limited number of lives that require you to put a password in to continue back at the level. Unnecessary and annoying. I give the gameplay 2 out of 5 points. Let's get to the important question. Would I recommend playing the game? No, it sucks. It tries to be Tetris, but is missing the fun and addictiveness of Tetris. I give the game overall 1.5 out of 5 points. Today we review Lucky Luke Desperado Train on the Game Boy Color. This game was released 2000 and released exclusively in the PAL regions. Like the title suggests, it is a game about the cowboy that shoots faster than its own shadow, Lucky Luke. The game is in most parts a platform or shoot-'em-up game, but also has a lot of mini-games like a gallery shooter, minecart races, boat driving, throwing bones and more. The game looks quite good. Every aspect of the game, the music, UI and so on, you can see the cowboys theme coming through. The sprites and backgrounds look quite good too, and I like the background music. The foreground, on the other hand, can look a bit weird. In the platform levels, they use kind of a parallaxing effect when you move, so that the foreground moves faster than the background. That can be a cool effect, but in this case the foreground moves so fast that it feels a bit like the city is driving away. Still, the game looks good, and I give the presentation 3.5 out of 5 points. Gameplay wise, it feels a bit like the game is trying too many things at the same time, but it's not making anything very good. The platformer levels feel fine, and I like that there's a climbing mechanic. The shooting, on the other hand, feels not very good. I needed a moment to realize that my shoots are actually hitting the enemy, because it looks like they dodged away. The most minigames are very simple and often simply bad. I give the gameplay 3 out of 5 points. Let's get to the important question. Would I recommend playing the game? No. It is an okay platformer, but nothing very impressive. Maybe a hardcore Lucky Luke fan finds the patience to play through it, but for the rest, there's nothing special. I give the game overall 3.5 out of 5 points. Today we review Hoyle card games on the Game Boy Color. This game was developed by Sandbox Interactive and released 2000 exclusively in North America. The game is a collection of 14 different card games, for example Crazy Eights, Cribbage, Solitaire, Go Fish and War. The game is looking really good. The cards are clear to see and every game has some unique background and background music. The games even have little animations, like a fish jumping out of the water in Go Fish or the tanks fighting in War. There are additionally a lot of playable and enemy characters. They are just different pictures, but still. They went with the presentation way further than they had to for the gameplay and I appreciate that. The only thing that is really not well presented is a way too long help text for the games. I give the presentation 4 out of 5 points. The gameplay is what you expect. There are a lot of card games and you can play them against a computer, hold seat or with link cable. The game plays as intended. I don't have anything else to say. The amount of different games is good, but nothing unexpected. I give the gameplay 3.5 out of 5 points. Let's get to the important question. Would I recommend playing the game? If you want to play card games on the Game Boy Color, yes. It is exactly that. The card games on the Game Boy Color. There are no surprises or interesting changes. So, if you want, for some reason, play that card game on the Game Boy Color, that game is great for you. But for the rest, there's nothing to discover. I give the game overall 3.5 out of 5 points. Today we review Magical Tetris Challenge, also known as Tetris Adventure Susumi Miketo Nakamatachi in Japan, on the Game Boy Color. This game was developed by Capcom and is a Tetris game starring Mickey Mouse and his friends. The game is not only offering classic Tetris, but in total 7 different game modes and a story mode, in which you need to finish certain challenges in the different modes to earn coins and win the game. The game looks really good, everything is colorful and the music is fine too. Since it is a Tetris game, the basic layout is what you expect. You can additionally see the character you play in the corner doing some movements. That can be a bit distracting, to be honest. And the story mode is also an overworld, which looks easy but does its job fine. I give the presentation 4 out of 5 points. Gameplay wise, I think that is one of the best Tetris games of all times. It has a lot of different game modes, like a versus or challenger mode, there's a story mode, the controls feel good, everything feels right about the game. In the story mode, the different playable characters need to get different coins, so there's some replayability there too. That feels like the perfect Tetris game. I give the gameplay 4 out of 5 points. Let's get to the important question. Would I recommend playing the game? Yes. It is Tetris in one of its best forms. It is great. Go play it. I give the game overall 4 out of 5 points. Today we review Doraemon no Study Boy Cuckoo game on the Game Boy Color. This game was developed by Shogakukan and released 2000 exclusively in Japan. It is a mathematic learning game starring Doraemon and is focusing on the multiplication table from 1 to 9. The presentation of the game is bad. The menus look weird, the background music sounds like it's broken, and the minigames have no redeeming parts about them either. There are a lot of negative things to say about the presentation, but not many positive things. I give the presentation 1.5 out of 5 points. The gameplay is multiplication games. Sometimes you need to press the right results of the calculation, and sometimes you need to write the right number for the calculation. The game doesn't have much variety. The gameplay is not very good, but I'm also not the target audience, so it's a bit hard to judge. I do think they could have put more efforts into these minigames. I give the gameplay 1.5 out of 5 points. Let's get to the important question. Would I recommend playing the game? No. Maybe if you have strong problems with your multiplication tables from 1 to 9, but if you have a question in that range, just write in the comments and we figure it out together. I give the game overall 1.5 out of 5 points. Today we review Shaman King, Chosen, Senjiria, Ketsu, Memarahen and Fumbarihen on the Game Boy Color. These games were developed by Studio Saisen and released simultaneously 2001 exclusively in Japan. There are two versions of the same game that just have different playable characters. The game is a card game based on the manga and anime Shaman King. You play different scenarios with the 3 playable characters of the version that you have. The presentation of the game is not great. The game is very text heavy and the dialogues are presented in a boring style with just a few different pixelated backgrounds and the always same faces of the people talking. I had to press A many times until I finally could play the card game. The card game itself looks okay, but not very impressive. You can see everything important, so the gameplay is not much impacted by the presentation, but the presentation itself is not very good. I give the presentation 2 out of 5 points. The game is sadly just in Japanese, but I tried to figure the rules of the game out with some translation software. You can have up to 2 shamans and they can have a maximum of 3 spirits. You can buff these spirits with different cards and use them to attack the enemy spirits as shaman. The moment the enemy shamans have 0 life points, you win the game. The gameplay is okay, but not much more. Maybe if you go deeper in the game there are more strategic options, but I found myself and my decisions to be limited. I give the gameplay 3 out of 5 points. Let's get to the important question. Would I recommend playing the game? No. You really need to speak Japanese to understand, and even then the game has too much dialogue and too less card games. Maybe fans of the card game can enjoy it, but without knowing the rules it is hard. I give the game overall 2.5 out of 5 points. Today we review Hunter x Hunter, Hunter no Keifu on the Game Boy Color. This game was developed by Konami and released 2000 exclusively in Japan. It is well, it's hard to describe what it really is. A tactical RPG maybe? It is based on the manga and anime Hunter x Hunter. The game is heavily relying on text and cutscenes, and the real gameplay parts of it are weird. You are in one map with the other hunters, and you can always choose 2 actions to do in one turn, like walking, talking or searching for things. You and the others do the actions at the same time. The presentation of the game is mixed. The cutscenes and dialogues look quite good. They have some nice backgrounds and the talking characters actually have some animations for moving their eyes and mouths whenever they talk. That is done nicely. The real playing parts on the other hand look very simple and not very good. Additionally, the game looks often a little bit buggy. Whenever people run into each other they kind of port back to their original position. That gives the presentation 2 out of 5 points. The gameplay part is extremely bad. I have no idea who thought this would be fun. You choose your actions and then you do them and walk, for example. But the game is so slow that it's painful to do anything. The first level is literally just running a marathon and you walk for like 10 minutes and nothing else happens. Just choosing walk and walk. Next turn. That is all. In the next level you need to find 2 items on the floor and the problems are the same. There's nearly nothing I would call gameplay. I give the gameplay 0.5 out of 5 points. Let's get to the important question. Would I recommend playing the game? No. I don't even know if I would call it a game. I have no idea what this is. I give the game overall 1 out of 5 points. Today we review Pocket Racing, on Japan known as Pocket GT on the Game Boy Color. This game was developed by MTO and released 1999 in Japan and 2000 in the PAL regions. It is an arcade-style racing game in which you drive on different tracks against NPCs or against the time. You can choose between different cars and tune them with the parts you unlock from driving the races. The presentation of the game is okay. Everything is in a cartoony style, and both the backgrounds and streets of the courses have an easy look. The cars are also nothing special. The transition between the sprites when you do a curve is very visible, and in the beginning the sprite of the car split in the middle, looking quite buggy. There is no background music during the races, just a monotonous engine sound. I give the presentation 2.5 out of 5 points. The gameplay of the game is average. It's a typical arcade racer. You start at the last position, and if you drive good, you will from time to time overtake another car. The tuning system with set improvements is nice but very basic. The whole gameplay is exactly that. Basic. I give the gameplay 3 out of 5 points. Let's get to the important question. Would I recommend playing the game? No. The whole game is a very average experience. There are better looking and feeling games with the exact same style, like V-Rally Championship Edition. I give the game overall 3 out of 5 points. Today we review Dragon Warrior 1 and 2, on Japan known as Dragon Quest 1 and 2 on the Game Boy Color. This game was developed by Tosi and released 1999 in Japan and 2000 in North America. It is a collection of the two NES games Dragon Warrior 1 and 2 with small changes. These two games are classic JRPG games. Dragon Quest 1 released 1986 in Japan and Dragon Quest 2 1987. These games established a lot of features that JRPG games got known for. The story of the first one is very simple. An evil dragon stole the Orb of Light and now monsters roam the land. Sometime after that, the dragon even kidnaps the princess. Now it's your task to defeat the dragon and save the princess. In the second game, the story takes place 100 years after the events of the first one and tells the story of three of the hero's descendants. The game looks fine. The presentation is quite simple. It is a typical JRPG style and much of the overworld looks a bit too simple, especially the buildings. It is not bad, but also not outstanding good in any way. The music on the other hand is great and the game does have cutscenes. The combat is a typical seeing the enemies from the front view. What I don't understand is why the first game has a nice background in that fighting scenes and the second game has nothing. I give the presentation 4 out of 5 points. The gameplay is exactly what you would expect. You go out, you grind your levels, you find and buy better equipment to better grind enemies, and from time to time you find more party members. After that you find the items you need and go defeat the boss. Nothing special here. The typical genre problems like high encounter rates are here too, and the games are grind heavy. Sadly, the second game got directly more annoying than the first in terms of battle. The encounter rate seems to be higher, and from the beginning there are multiple enemies which drags the fighter out. I give the gameplay 3 out of 5 points. Let's get to the important question. Would I recommend playing the game? Just for genre fans. These games are old JRPGs, that means grinding. But if you like that, you will find solid games that spawned a franchise that is still going strong today. I give the game overall 3.5 out of 5 points. Today we review Harvest Moon 3, on Japan known as Pukojo Monogatari Gibi 3 Boy Meets Girl on the Game Boy Color. This game was developed by Victor Interactive Software and released 2000 in Japan and 2001 in North America. It is a typical Harvest Moon and with that farming game. The story takes place after Harvest Moon 2 and brings you to a new farm on an island. There you don't farm alone but together with a partner. You can choose in the beginning if you are a male or female character and your partner will be the other gender. While the characters play similar, they don't play the same. The male character has more energy and the female more starting money. As an NPC, the male character will take over watering the plants and the female taking care of the animals. The game looks very nice. I like the style. Everything is colorful and brings a good mood. There's a lot of small details, like a mole coming out when you plow the dirt. The sprites look good and have nice animations for sprinting and jumping over things, for example. The music is complementing the graphical presentation and brings a relaxed mood. Sadly, the map of the game is not connected but has a small menu. The menu looks cute and has different weather effects, but I still think a connected map would have been better. I give the presentation 4 out of 5 points. Gameplay wise, the game does a lot of things right. You can sprint, jump over objects, and the menus are very clean. On the other hand, the game is limited by the controls of the Game Boy Color. There are just 2 buttons, so there's no quick change between tools, which would have been very useful. The farm is also a bit confusing from the layout, and I don't like that the island with the farm has no shop and you need to go to the main island to buy things, which is just possible on 2 weekdays. The differences between male and female characters are a nice idea, but the decision that the game of the female character ends after marriage is interesting, but not good. Still, all the negatives are small things. The main gameplay of making the farm better and getting more and more rich with farming is great. I give the gameplay 4 out of 5 points. Let's get to the important question. Would I recommend playing the game? Yes. Harvest Moon is a classic, and that for a good reason. That is a fun, cozy game. I give the game overall 4 out of 5 points. Today we review Star Wars Episode 1 Racer on the Game Boy Color. This game was developed by PAX Softtonica and released 1999. The game released on multiple consoles like PC, PlayStation 1, Dreamcast, and of course the Game Boy Color, which is the version we are looking at. It was even not so long ago released for PlayStation 4 and Switch. The game is a Star Wars game that focuses on the pod racing that we see in Episode 1, The Phantom Menace.
You play as one of many pod racers and race a 1v1 against another one on different courses. Whenever you beat an opponent, you unlock that racer too. The racers have different stats like max speed, acceleration, body strength and more. There is no real story mode, just driving against different racers on the various planets. The game looks fine. The pod racers are colorful and look different enough to recognize them. The tracks are all a bit different too, which is mainly the colors I use. There's even a very short start cutscene. The real star of the presentation is the main track, which is a version of the theme of the first film and a forward-pushing version. That song is great, but also the only real music there is. Especially during the races, the background music is missing. There's just an annoying engine sound and that's it. The whole presentation has the problem that it is good, but too less variation. I give the presentation 3.5 out of 5 points. The game always feels fast. That is something very important for a pod racer game, but not so easy to achieve. It needs to feel fast, but at the same time not unfair when it comes to curves on the track. The game is doing that really good. While the gameplay feels good, the same problem as the presentation occurs here too. There's not much variation. There is no story mode or upgrade system for the racers or anything like that. You can race and unlock the other drivers, but there's not much long-term motivation, especially because the races feel too similar. It gives the gameplay 3.5 out of 5 points. Let's get to the important question. Would I recommend playing the game? Not really. Without nostalgia for it, I wouldn't recommend it. But it is not a bad game. I was positively surprised by it. It is fun, just not for long. I give the game overall 3.5 out of 5 points. Today we review Microsoft Pinball Arcade on the Game Boy Color. This game was developed by Sapphire and released 2001 in North America and the PAL regions. It is a pinball game which features 5 historical and famous pinball tables. The game looks and sounds great. The tables are close to their real-life originals, and unlike other pinball games, right Pinball Tycoon on GBA, the tables actually feel like a pinball table and not just like an image. The bumpers interact whenever they are hit, there are vibrations and impact effects, and the game manages to bring the tables to a small screen without making it confusing. The sound effects for hitting things are nice too and make everything feel impactful. There's also some good background music during the levels. The main menu on the other hand looks a bit too simple. I give the presentation 4 out of 5 points. The gameplay on the other hand has some problems. The physics often feel a bit off. Additionally, the game can have a serious slowdown depending on the table. That can be quite annoying. It is hard to explain, but the gameplay just doesn't feel right. You cannot play around with the ball as much as you can do in other pinball games. I give the gameplay 2.5 out of 5 points. Let's get to the important question. Would I recommend playing the game? No. I like the idea of the historic pinball tables, and the game has a great presentation, but sadly the feeling during playing is not quite right. Mainly because of the physics. Still way ahead of Pinball Tycoon. I give the game overall 3 out of 5 points. Today we review Rugrats Time Traveler on the Game Boy Color. This game was developed by Software Creations and released 1999 in North America and 2000 in the PAL regions. It is a platformer starring the Rugrats. The Rugrats got a time machine and go to different times and places to find toys or other characters. Maybe the story makes more sense to people that are more into the Rugrats lore, but for me the story made not that much sense. The game is also not trying to explain the story too much. One little screen with text is all you get before level starts. In the levels you need to find some specific item or items and go after that to the time machine. The game is saved by a password system. The game looks quite good. The characters have big, good recognizable sprites with different animations for special actions like driving in a minecart. Everything is colorful and the backgrounds are looking good too. The enemies on the other hand can look a bit too pixelated and sometimes it is hard to see them, especially their projectiles can be hard to spot. The background music is nice and changes based on the setting of the level. I give the presentation 3.5 out of 5 points. The gameplay on the other hand is a real problem in that game. It is a platformer with a lot of enemies, but no attack. You don't have any attack or way to deal with the opponents. You can try to jump over them, but that's it. If they hit you, you lose one of your items that you, depending on the level, might need, and that item respawns at its original location. That is such a shitty system, I have no idea who thought of that. You can get hit at the end of the level, and the item that respawns is at the beginning. So you need to go all the way back, but on the way you will get hit by more enemies because you cannot kill them, and so you need to find that items again. When playing that game, I actually feel like a time traveler, because I always feel like I picked up that item before already. So in a way, the gameplay is representing the time traveler story of the game. I give the gameplay 1 out of 5 points. Let's get to the important question. Would I recommend playing the game? No. They made a platformer in which you really don't want to get hit by an enemy, filled set with a lot of enemies and no way to deal with them. Genius. I give the game 2.5 out of 5 points.